Hello again, Carmen Ryder here, back with another commentary. Now, normally on this channel we talk about more left-leaning YouTubers, but unfortunately today I'm gonna have to friendly fire. The video is titled, Zoomers Are Coomers. Let's get into it.
I came across a thread on Twitter today. Here's how it started. Enough politics. Abs time. This post had almost 60,000 likes and over 800 replies. Now we're going to come back to those replies in a moment. I don't care about who this person is. Before I even start, I want to head off 4 degenerate copes.
Ah yes, you already have your straw men ready.
That I just know some dweeb in the chat or the comments will be trying to make. Let me save you the trouble and list them. Number 1. What's wrong with abs? Do you want girls to be fat? Number 2. You're just a boomer who doesn't get the tomboy abs fetish subculture, bro. Number 3. If you're against this, it's obviously some insecurity on your part. Number 4. Stop getting triggered and acting like a prude, bro. They're just being ironic and exaggerating, trying to wind you up.
Okay, I will admit the two in the middle are kind of shitty arguments. And at the same time, you literally start this video with a straw man. Though it doesn't matter anyway, since he doesn't even counter these arguments and takes the no one asked route and uses some movie clip as a pseudo-argument.
So just stop, okay? Enough with these justifications and copes. Don't want to hear them, I don't care. I've heard it all before anyway, when I focused on the femboy issue.
New video idea? Gonna have to get Booking Kid for that one.
And the anime to porn to trans pipeline last year. Now many fewer people doubt what I was saying back then. And so it shall be with so-called tomboy abs and this absurd trend that we're seeing.
I mean, this is just a picture of a girl showing off her muscles. I don't really see a trend.
Both of these things, the femboy and the tomboy, point to a deeper existential malaise in a culture that has seriously lost its way. And before you libertarians start...
Everyone who doesn't agree with me is a libertarian. Well, I'm someone who leans to the right. And I still don't agree.
It's not fucking kink, okay? It's not a private matter. It's not a case of what goes on in the bedroom. So please shut up for a second while the natural law is laid down.
Why make a counter-argument when you can just tell someone to shut up instead?
This is a civilizational matter because we are a civilization under both tremendous attack and in steep decline.
Under attack? By who?
Therefore it matters that our young women are trying to behave like men in this way, and it matters even more that our young men are responding in public and under their real names, mind you, like this.
There isn't really an issue. I'm not sure where you're getting at.
I think that we've reached peak wank.
Now, because people are stupid, I can't just let this picture speak for itself.
Talking down to your viewers. Classy.
I'm going to have to really spell it out so that even Billy at the back of the class can get it. The woman is built like a man. The man is a little snake wimp on his knees in the classic blowjob position. To cap it all off, she's holding his head. There's even a variant where she calls him little boy.
Okay, and?
This isn't some one-off response. This is a cultural phenomenon big enough to be a meme. But it should be clear that the tomboy abs is a gateway to fantasies of complete gender reversal.
Literally fucking how? Literally how does liking buff women as a man make you trans or whatever you're getting at? That's not how gender dysphoria works. Though I will say discrediting its existence is a very leftist thing to do.
This young man wants to put himself in the position of a teenage girl.
Teenage girl? No! How the fuck does submissiveness correlate to teenage girl? If anything, that's kinda creepy.
Serving a bigger and more masculine man. He is abdicating his responsibility as a man and asking the woman to be the man in his place.
Not in the slightest. I don't know where you got that idea, but that's not what's happening.
But because it's 2021 and people are extra specially stupid in this day and age, I'm going to get another reply to ensure that you really get it. I'm going to bash you over the head. Remember I mentioned Conan and his sledgehammer? This video is me wielding Conan's sledgehammer, okay? So let's look at this one. Here, Nikki responds to the picture of the masculine woman with a degenerate anime meme of what appears to be a schoolgirl squirting milk from their genital.
Dude, I have eyes. I can see the fucking image. You don't need to describe it.
Now Nicky imagines himself as a schoolgirl with a penis exploding at the sight of a strong woman.
You're taking the reaction image too literally. Is the reply kinda cringe? Yeah, kinda. But I doubt this guy imagines himself as a woman with a penis.
If you look at the written text, it is also written in a particularly girlish way. I'm so horny right now.
That's not really girlish. If a guy tells his wife the same thing in the bed, is that girlish? No, of course not.
Let's do some more for luck. Here's a Japanese-looking girl, posted as the point-of-view character from the male Twitter user licking the tomboy abs. This is the complete inversion of Laura Mulvey's male gaze. This is the female gaze internalized by young men.
I have no fucking idea what that is, but I'm pretty sure it's bullshit.
Here's another variant. Here, the man imagines himself as a young anime girl with a fucking ponytail poking their tongue out trying to lick the toned stomach of a muscular woman.
Again, that's too literal of an interpretation. Also, ponytails aren't really feminine. There are guys who have to wear ponytails, not for the style, but wear it for their line of work. Like food service.
This is why the terrorists hate us.
Ah yes, the terrorists. Not Antifa, not ISIS, not Al-Qaeda, the terrorists. And they hate us because we like women with muscles. Not because, they're bigoted psychopaths who need to burn in hell. It's because we like women with abs. Also, I've seemed to have missed the meeting where we all unanimously decided that we should bend the knee to terrorists. Please, remind me the reason why we should give the terrorists what they want. We shouldn't bend the knee to terrorists. That's what they want. If anything, this is where the riots work mentality comes from, which is very much a leftist argument.
Now, while I don't want to see a single comment defending this shit, and I will delete them if I see them.
Imagine deleting comments of people you don't agree with. I think we found the British Team boss.
I cannot blame the young men and the young women who are the victims of this. Yes, it is true that male and female traits are biologically rooted, but there is some slack there which culture picks up, and whatever slack is there, our culture is pushing to breaking point.
Okay, I will agree with the first thing you said. I'm not one to think that gender is a social construct. After all, if it was so irrelevant, we wouldn't have literal fucking movements dedicated to it. But at the same time, I'm not sure how this ties into why the terrorists hate us.
Inducing problems of internal identity on young and impressionable men and women who live dazed and confused by all of this, addicted to porn and this sort of gender-bending nonsense on a daily basis.
Like I've said many times before, porn addiction doesn't exist. But also, how is being attracted to something confusing? Like, I understand when someone is a teenager, they're still finding themselves sexually, but these are clearly adults. Hell, the guy on screen you're referring to has a beard.
I'm led to believe that the likes of Count Dankula and others have tried to normalise and defend all of this.
Count Dankula? What has he got to do with this? Also, again, normalization is a pretty leftist argument, my guy.
This isn't something that should be defended. It's ultimately terminal for civilizational prospect. It is quite literally training men to think of themselves as women, to ape the behaviors of women.
I know, like I played as Chun-Li in Street Fighter, and now suddenly I'm infected with gender dysphoria.
And when the barbarian does invade, can we be sure that these men will shake it all off and fight, or will they drop to their knees with their tongue hanging out?
Dude, the barbarians existed 122 years ago. They don't exist anymore. Now, you may be thinking he means barbarian in a metaphorical sense. Well, if that's the case, then that's why we have the military. These people literally work to protect us from enemy forces. It's their job. A man who's been in the line of fire wouldn't even think about his kingsman fighting a fucking terrorist.
This tomboy rubbish is just the tip of the much deeper iceberg that infiltrates Zoomer culture at every level, especially in porn, but also in all of the other degenerate forms, the forums, the anime, the 4chan, all of the gamer spaces.
Ooh, blaming 4chan for all your problems. That's kind of a leftist thing, don't you think? But hey, if a few Sneed posters and betards can get on your nerves, then that's fine with me.
And so on and so forth. This sort of thing is just the everyday life. Another quote that somebody gave me is, don't react to something on Twitter. Let me tell you something. Twitter is real life.
That is the farthest thing from the truth.
It's more real, and it affects real life more than anybody expects.
Once again, I will admit that's somewhat true. But even then, Twitter itself isn't real life. If anything, that's the reason why people are upset when it does affect real life.
How can anybody have lived through the past 3 or 4 years and not think that Twitter is real life? Of course it is. This is what young men are spending their time doing. Don't give me that cope. Now, it's hard to blame anyone, in particularly on an individual level, because the cultural messaging they've been getting since the 1990s has trended in this direction to greater or lesser extremes. Let me read some of the lyrics of a song that I grew up with, Girls and Boys by Blur. Now, what is the traditional answer to all of this? Let's see what Julius Evola says in Revolt Against the Modern World.
We know that every traditional civilization is based on the will to order and give form, and that the traditional law is not oriented toward what is unqualified, equal, and indefinite, or, in other words, toward that impersonal mix in which the various parts of the whole become promiscuously or atomically similar, but rather intends these parts to be themselves, and to express as perfectly as possible their own typical nature. Therefore, particularly with regard to the genders, man and woman are two different types. Those who are born as men must realize themselves as men, while those who are born as women must realize themselves as women, overcoming any mixture and promiscuity of vocations. Even in regard to the supernatural vocation, man and woman must both have their own distinctive paths to follow, which cannot be altered without them turning into contradictory and inorganic ways of being.
Already, Evola rules out the prospect of the manly woman or the girly man as contradictory and inorganic.
I don't wish to butcher this guy's words or anything, but people can be born with the mind of a woman and a body of a man, and vice versa. That's how gender dysphoria happens. Also, what does this have to do with abs? Not to pull a fractured light, but I'm gonna skip ahead to when he actually talks about the correlation with muscular women.
Evola suggests that men and women won't ever truly find themselves, so to speak, unless they adopt either the path of absolute affirmation, that's being a warrior, a man of action as a man, or a lover, that is giving herself over entirely to a man as a woman. And the other path is the path of absolute dedication. That's being an aesthetic, essentially one who transcends and overcomes sensual pleasures as a man, or a mother, that is giving herself entirely to the child as a woman. The hardest aspect for the liberal mind to understand in all of this is that those paths represent ultimate freedom in self-actualization for any of us.
Well, if traditionalism makes you feel accomplished in life, that's great. But that doesn't mean everyone is content with traditionalism. Isn't this what the commies want? When China banned feminine men from media? Again, you shouldn't be siding with commies.
And everything else, all of the other temptations in life, which modernity throws our way and sells to us as freedom is a trap. Now, when I say the liberal mind, I don't just mean Democrat voters and communists or something like that. I mean me, you, all of us. Me, you, and everyone watching this constantly defaults to thinking in a liberal way, because these are the waters in which we swim. This is how we've all been socialized from the second that we were born.
Ah yes, all babies are left-wing by default, because we all know that babies are expert in feminist dance theory or whatever colleges teach nowadays.
We default to thinking of Evola's traditional edict here as being overly austere and constrictive in its prescriptions, and therefore we immediately try to find exceptions or counters or way to justify having a more enlightened or modern view of the matter.
Yeah, how dare you counter my argument instead of trying to agree with me? I'm trying to help you live a happy life by actively shitting on the things you like. Again, that sounds more leftist than it does base, to be honest. Gonna skip ahead since he plays a clip from some political meeting. Not that it's irrelevant or anything, it just has very poor audio with an air conditioner in the background, and I can barely hear him.
Liberalism within ourselves is always the enemy. Liberalism also feeds on indifference. Indifference to the future and indifference to the generations that are coming in the future. And this is what I notice most when I scratch on these little issues of degeneracy in the culture now and again, like I'm doing in this video. There's always a contingent in the audience who'd rather I didn't look, who'd rather I didn't care. Why do you care about this academic agent, they'll say? Why do you care if some silly Zoomers want to lick the abs of masculine women? I care because I care about future generations. I care because I care about this current generation. This is not a healthy place for our people to be in.
I agree, hence why me and my girlfriend aren't having kids.
And you should care. When you try to fob me off and get me not to care, whether you know it or not, you're working for the interests of the enemy.
What enemy? Who the fuck is waging war with us?
Because, the enemy want this to happen. A people is more pliable, easier to manipulate. If you have a generation of confused, girlish men, and a generation of even more confused, mannish women, constantly locked in a battle against their true natures. It is satanic.
Bro, you're speaking to a Catholic. It's really not.
And when you cope and try to ward off and explain away this shit against the vanguard of the right, you're doing the bidding of the regime. You're acting as an apologist for their inversion of tradition.
Apologist is one of the most leftist words out there. If they're so much of an enemy, why are you using their talking points? That's all for today. If you want more from me, you can watch my DeviantArt. If you want to support the channel, you can donate to my Patreon. If you want to talk to me directly, you can join my Discord server. And until next time...
Hello! Is this Virgo? If so, then we've got work to do. So am I. So am I. So am I.
By the way, her name's Taurus, you fucking dumbass.